been following this 3-year schedule through the whole Bible for our pulpit ministry, and we do 2 Old Testament books, then we go to a New Testament book, and then we go back to the Old Testament for a couple of books, and we go back to the New Testament. We started that in January. Plan is to continue that through 2022 and 2023. We will finish the Bible. So we find ourselves now in Ruth. And with the way we've broken down the schedule, you were to read this past week the whole book of Ruth in preparation for this message. Interesting book, the book of Ruth. Strange customs from a different age that we're not familiar with. You read the book of Ruth, and it sure is handy if you have some type of study Bible that can explain to you these strange customs, or if you've got a commentary on the book of Ruth that can help you understand it. And I was tempted to make the focus of my message, since we're looking at the whole book, an explanation of these strange customs and help it bring up to speed. But I'm going to instead put that upon you, if you've not already studied the book of Ruth, that if you hadn't studied it this week and done the research yourself. It's very fascinating. Go back and find out, what's a kinsman redeemer? Ask yourself that question. And then ask yourself, what does this story of Ruth and a kinsman redeemer, how does it relate to a redeemer for us? How does it paint a picture that points forward to a Messiah who is our kinsman redeemer? These are questions that are fascinating to study, and we know that the Old Testament points forward to Jesus Christ. We think about Luke chapter 24, how Jesus on the road with the 2 disciples to Emmaus, he showed them, he preached from the Old Testament himself and how it all pointed to him. So I want to challenge you to consider some time, to take some time in the Word this week and maybe in some research and find out, how does this book point to Jesus Christ? That's not what I'm going to preach on, though. Instead, I'm going to preach a message titled Portrait of a Godly Woman. Portrait of a Godly Woman. This is a portrait of a godly woman. Ruth herself is an example for us today, even, of what it means to be a godly woman. Just a few simple points, and you'll find this spread out through the book. Ruth gives us an example here. By the way, I know this means I'm kind of preaching to you ladies, but I'm also preaching to young men. Someday, young men, you will probably get married at some point, and you need to be praying about what your spouse will be like. These are 4 qualities we're going to look at from Ruth in her life and in this book. Something you can be praying for. Mothers, this is something you can be praying for your son's future spouse. Ladies, these are qualities you can be praying for would be present in your life. If you're not married yet, or if you're hoping to be married, or even if you're not married at all. These are great qualities to have for ladies. These are Christian qualities. These are qualities we see emphasized in the New Testament, in addition to the Old Testament. These are found throughout God's Word. But just to show you the applicability of it, these are qualities, men, you can be praying for your wife. I hope, gentlemen, you pray for your wife. I have a prayer notebook I use most days, and in that prayer notebook I have requests for myself. I have requests for my wife. And gentlemen, just think about it. When you pray for a wife, you're benefiting yourself. Okay? It's long been my prayer, Lord, create in Lacey a strong love for the St. Louis Cardinals. I'm still waiting on that prayer to be answered. I really don't pray about that.
Sometimes the answer is no.
Yeah, sometimes you just don't. You know. But no, I have a list of about 12 qualities I pray for Lacey. And those qualities came from me asking her, how can I pray for you? And she gave me this list. So it's in my prayer notebook that I pray for her. All right, what are these qualities? And by the way, one more comment on this for prefacing it. Gentlemen, if you'll pray for these qualities, it probably will make for a better marriage as well for you. Number 1, devoted to family. Devoted to family. Chapter 1, verses 16 and 17. Ruth was committed to her mother-in-law. She had married into this family, and she remained devoted to this family. She said, you may have heard these words before, probably not in the context of a woman to her mother-in-law, but instead in context of marriage. Wherever you go, well, I will go. Wherever you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God, my God. That is a quotation that has been used in many a marriage ceremony.
That's right.
And some people are surprised to find out when they find it in the Bible, it actually isn't about marriage at all. It's about a daughter-in-law in respect to her mother-in-law. She was committed to her family. Oh, that every son-in-law and daughter-in-law had that type of relationship with their in-laws. That they were committed to them, saw them as family. Committed and devoted to family. Ruth's husband had died. She had no children. She was a Moabitess who had married an Israelite. And her mother-in-law, Naomi, was also recently widowed. Tragedy had struck. They were in a difficult season of life. We've had a difficult couple of years, have we not? 2020 was tough. I remember when the new year was coming in and everyone was saying, okay, bye-bye 2020, hello 2021, it's going to be a better year, it's going to be a great year. Well, maybe it's been a great year for a lot of people, but it's been a really hard year for a lot of people. We can, in some ways, identify with where they were at, and they were in one of the harder seasons of their life. And for a lot of people, these past couple of years, it's been a hard season. For me, it didn't start in 2020. For me, it started in 2019, when I was so disappointed with the death of my mom, and not understanding why God didn't honor my prayers for her to live into her 80s instead of just to 71 years old. A bitter year for me. 2020 was not so bad compared to 2019 for me, although 2020 was a tough year for sure. They're in a tough season of life. And Naomi says to Ruth and to her other daughter, you don't have to stay with me. Go back to your people. She was trying to bless them. She loved them. She said, you'd be better off for you if you go back to your home. Go back to your people. And so Orpah, which, by the way, is the woman whom Oprah is named after. I don't know if you knew that story, but she meant to name her Orpah and got confused and put Oprah on there. That's how we have Oprah. So I get tickled at some of these names. Every time I hear Elimelech, I got this song going through my head. Elimelech, in the jungle, the lion sleeps tonight. It's weird. I started commenting on it earlier. I'm like, oh, don't say it. Just keep reading the text. But Ruth, she says, no, I want to stay with you. You're my family now. And I'd like to think, I know this is reading into the text somewhat, but actually we have some justification for saying this. She was a Moabitess, but she married into a Hebrew, God-fearing family. And there's a part of me that likes to think that as she married in this family, as she was a part of this family, she not only embraced the family, but she ended up embracing the one true God.
Yes.
Because she says here, your people will be my people, and your God, my God. She was devoted to her family. Not so much these days are people as devoted to their family. We have fathers who refuse to pay alimony, fathers who don't spend quality time with their children, mothers who place careers before their children, and spouses that leave one another when the going gets tough. But Ruth was an example of loyalty and faithfulness. I'm committed, I'm devoted, I'm sticking with my family. Proverbs chapter 31 says, who can find a virtuous wife? For her worth is far more than rubies. The heart of her husband safely trusts her. So he will have no lack of gain. She does him good and not even evil all the days of her life. The faithfulness, the commitment, the perseverance. Marriage is hard. Marriage is difficult. Families, it's harder and harder, it seems, for families to stay together and stick together. It's hard to have a successful family in this day and age. Committed to family. Number 2, diligent to work. Diligent to work. Chapter 2, verse 7. Please let me glean and gather among the sheaves behind the harvesters. She went to the field and has worked steadily she went to the field and worked steadily from morning till now, except for a short time in the shelter. This is the foreman reporting to Boaz about her work ethic. She wasn't afraid to work. No, she was diligent to work. She was a hard worker. Here's a young lady who had to go to work to provide for her family. She didn't complain. She didn't make excuses. She didn't beg. The Bible is filled with commands for us to be hard workers and not to be lazy. Let me just give you a few. Here's Ecclesiastes 9:10. Chapter 9, verse 10. Whatever your hand finds to do, do it with all your might. Colossians 3:23. And whatever you do, do it heartily as to the Lord and not to men. These are just a few of several Bible verses that talk about it's our responsibility to work hard, to labor. She was willing to do that. This is not just for women, of course. This is for everyone. All of us should work hard at what we do, whether it's a pastor, whether it's a teacher, a nurse, a homemaker, an attorney, construction worker. I mean, you just go through all the various professions. Whatever you find yourself doing, whatever your vocation, whatever your calling in life to earn money, work at it with all your heart. Put your effort into it. Put your heart into it. One of the saddest things that I see in our culture is when people are going and scratching off those tickets and buying those and thinking. And I remember when I was in seminary and I had a part-time 25-30 hour a week job, and I can't remember what day it was. I was in Texas. I don't remember what day of the week it was when they'd announced the winners of the Powerball and all that other stuff. But I was working in an environment with a lot of other people who weren't seminary students, and most of them would always buy their ticket stuff. Oh, tonight, I'm going to win big tonight. And part of what they would talk about on our job was what they were going to do if they won the millions. And of course, the next day, they'd all be, we didn't win the millions. Or the next Monday or whatever it was. What are we going to do if we strike it rich? What are we going to do if we win it big? And of course, you've probably heard all the stories of the people who win it big. It ends up destroying their lives. In many cases. But if you work hard over a long time and accumulate the wealth over a long time, that's the way the Bible presents how to gather wealth. In fact, the book of Proverbs cautions against getting rich quickly, but grow into it over time through hard work. Wealth is not a curse, but it can be. Work hard. She worked hard. Proverbs again 31, talking about the virtuous woman. She's like the merchant ships. She brings her food from afar. She also rises while it is the night, provides food for her household and a portion for her maidservants. She considers a field and buys it. From her profits she plants a vineyard. She girds herself with strength and strengthens her arms. She perceives that her merchandise is good and her lamp does not go out by night. Some women have no choice. Some single moms, God bless the single mothers, working hard for their family. They have to be out there where they'd rather be working in the home. We're not going to criticize wherever a woman's at in her life, in her stage of life, but if at all possible, unless physically or in some special condition unable, she should either work at home or work a job, find work and work. And it's sad to say this, but in our culture today, it's almost, for a lot of the culture, it's looked upon as, oh, you're just a homemaker. No, you're not just a homemaker. That's a high calling to be a homemaker. And don't let anyone look down upon you like you don't have a real job. Could be that you have the hardest job anyone can imagine. I was reminded of that just last month when Lacey's sick with COVID, quarantining at my dad's house, and I'm for 2 weeks leading our household with 3 out of our 4 children I was trying to pastor this church. Y'all were so gracious to me to give me grace to know I wasn't doing a very good job of that for a few weeks there because I was making sure clothes were washed. I think we washed some of the clothes. It was all I could do to get 3 square meals in front of 3 teenagers and myself. Lord have mercy. When she got back home, I got down on my knees and called her blessed. Amen. Number 3, depending on God. Verse 12, same chapter. May the Lord repay you for what you've done. May you be richly rewarded by the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you come to take refuge. Boaz saw that Ruth was trusting in God. Somehow he saw that she had put her trust in the Lord. Again, I think she was converted to the one true God through her coming into this family through marriage. And now that faith is showing fruit. It's bearing fruit to where he could see that she was trusting in the Lord. You know, people say there are things that are intangible. We talk about how we believe in things that you cannot touch, like we believe in love, we believe in faith, we believe that there's such things as hope. These are things you cannot touch. But I'm telling you, you can see it in a person's life. You can see that a person is trusting in the Lord. She was trusting in the Lord. She was depending upon God. It's one thing to profess to be a Christian. It's another thing to actually live it out. To truly trust in the Lord. Do you depend on God? Have you been depending on God through the pandemic? Have you been depending on God through your struggles and your trials and whatever circumstances the Lord has enabled you to go through? Have you been, He's allowed, He's permitted these things in your life? Have you been depending upon Him? Where's your trust? Are you trusting in the Lord? Number 4, from chapter 3, she also displayed true beauty. Look at chapter 3 and verse 3. She's instructed by Naomi, her mother-in-law, wash and perfume yourself. Put on your best clothes. Then go down to the threshing floor. Prep yourself, ladies. They both say it at the same time. Warning duly noted. They said, careful. I know I'm treading on very, very...
We love you, guys.
I'm going to go ahead and ask for forgiveness beforehand. I've got my notes very carefully written on this. In some circles of Christianity, women are supposed to do everything they can to look plain, not draw attention to themselves. They're told they cannot wear makeup, cannot wear nice clothing, cannot style their hair, and all this is in order to be done in order to be godly. What does the Scripture say on this issue? In Ruth 3:3 here, Naomi tells Ruth to fix herself up. She's been working hard all day. Probably was sweaty. She says, wash yourself, anoint yourself, put on your best garment. That's one translation. In other words, in our modern vernacular, honey, take a shower, spend some time in front of the mirror. Imagine one female saying that to another. Don't hear in that my voice, the male voice. Honey, take a shower, get in front of the mirror. It's not what I'm saying. The Bible prizes modesty. The Bible prizes humility. But it does not say, look as bad as you can. Or look as plain as you can. There's nothing wrong with attempting to look one's best, provided it's in decency and good taste. In the New Testament, Paul's instructions on dress were such to make sure that the women of the church would not be confused with prostitutes in the city. The Bible teaches that a woman should be focused first on the inward beauty. But that inward beauty should extend outward to where she does want to present herself in her outward beauty that God has given her. And outward beauty for a woman is to draw attention to the countenance of glow of the joy of the Lord on her face. This should be the focus. She was a woman of true beauty, for she didn't just accentuate the positive on the outside, she worked hard on inner beauty. It's obvious in this book. You see her character. And as it's often said, what is on the inside will come out on the outside. So, ladies, work first to cultivate the beauty in the inner spirit. And then recognize and don't belittle yourself, ladies, and don't make yourself look plain and make yourself, I'm not going to look to make myself attractive on the outside because I want to be humble and I don't want to be noticed. No. Let that inner beauty shine out through you. And yes, you can adorn that in some ways of perfume. Here is listed in this particular, put on your best garments. It's okay, ladies, for you to, and I'm speaking now to young ladies as well, it's okay for you to make yourself look good when you're young to try to catch the eye of a guy. Now, what's fascinating, though, in this is that she caught Boaz's eye when she was in the field working and wasn't doing this. Again, because I think Boaz was a godly man, and he was looking more at this woman, at her character, than he was on the outside. And guys, listen, there's a point for us right there. I'm speaking to young men. As you think about your future, as you think about a wife, I said last week, we guys are very simple when it comes to the phrase falling in love. We see woman, we like woman. Whereas the women are more nuanced and more deep than we are, and they're looking at the character more. But here's an example of a guy who was looking at the character. But Naomi says, hey, it's great if he's noticing you from your character. I'm adding a little bit, embellishing maybe the story, reading into it. Naomi's saying, hey, it's great. He's noticed you. That's awesome. He's seen your character. But now, in addition to that, let's prep you up a little bit as you're going to present yourself to him. The Bible says in Proverbs, back to chapter 31, charm is deceitful and beauty is vain, but a woman who fears the Lord shall be praised. Number 5, chapter 4. One more thing for us to see. She delivered blessing. She blessed others. Chapter 4, verses 14 and 15. So let's start verse 13. So Boaz took Ruth and she became his wife, and he went to her, and the Lord enabled her to conceive, and she gave birth to a son. Then the women said to Naomi, praise be the Lord. And then I'm just paraphrasing, you already read it. You've been blessed. Look at how she's blessed you. Your daughter-in-law has blessed you. The Lord has blessed you through your daughter-in-law. Ruth blessed Naomi. She delivered blessing. A godly woman is one who delivers blessing to those around her. Again, going to Proverbs 31, her children rise up and call her blessed. Her husband also and praises her. Many daughters have done well, but you exceed them all. Charm is deceitful and beauty is passing, but a woman who fears the Lord, she shall be praised. Give her the fruit of her hands, and let her own works praise her in the gate. He's what I'm saying. He said, you've been a blessing to others, so we're going to praise you because you're a blessing. She blesses others. Ladies, as you walk with the Lord, as you fear the Lord, as you depend upon God, as you have true beauty, just go through these previous points. What's happening is, as you are devoted to your family, as you work hard, you are a blessing to those around you. It's really the result of these other points that I've been giving you. Blesses others. I want to be a blessing to others, don't you? Yes. This should be our prayer for all of us. Lord, make me a blessing. I hope that's something you pray. Make me a blessing today to somebody. Make me an answered prayer to somebody. We focus so much on ourselves and our prayers and requests. But what about saying, Lord, make me a blessing? May I touch someone with your love? May I be a smile to someone who needs to be smiled at. May I notice someone, take interest in them. May I be a listening ear to somebody this week. May I represent Christ well.